Welcome live. Let me make sure I'm live on Instagram as well. Hashtag live if you are catching this live, and hashtag replay if you're catching the replay. So the topic today is why some nonprofits blow up while others stay small. I know that may be a question, like I've heard a lot of people get salty about it. Oh, our nonprofit does great work, but we never get that funding. The big ones are getting the funding. Like, um, Like my son tells me, Mom, it's not that deep, right? So you like it's not as complicated as you think. There's a reason for that. It's not luck. It's not because of who they know. Actually, let me take that back. It may be because of who they know. That's why I'm always promoting making sure that you're building relationships out there because your relationships are going to help you move to the next level, right? But essentially, what it comes down to is strategy and execution. Like, if you don't have these two things, if you're not able to be strategic about it, and then funny enough, one of my colleagues said this morning, if you don't have a strategy, what do you have, right? So, like, just in the words of Dorinda, like, if you don't have a strategy, like, really, there's a problem. So, it comes down to strategy and execution, right? And most nonprofits are getting it wrong because they're lacking the strategy part and they're not executing the way they need to. And when I say execution, I mean like take action on the strategy that you developed and make sure you're implementing the steps to ensure that you are actually moving forward, right? Because if your nonprofit is constantly having a hard time securing funding, barely getting noticed, you're always stuck in that cycle of survival. It's essentially not because of money alone, like, and it's not because the money isn't there. It's that lack of strategy that we go back to that your nonprofit needs to start taking seriously. So we're going to break down why high impact nonprofits are able to grow, right? They're able to grow while others stay small and things that you would need to start doing differently, right? But before we dive in, if you're ready to break out of this cycle and you actually want to grow, book a strategy session with me so we can map out a clear, scalable growth plan for your nonprofit to ensure that you're able to get out of this cycle of famine. Okay. So the link is going to be in my stand store. If you click the link in my bio or in the comments, it'll lead you to my stand store and a strategy session. Just book one and we can sit down for 90 minutes, come up with an action plan that you can implement for the next 3 to 6 months and go from there. Because at the end of the day, if you do not have a strategy to implement, it makes it very hard for you to go past a certain level. Okay. Now, growth tends to be intentional and not accidental. That's why it's very important for you to have a strategy in your organization because successful organization, they're actually built intentionally, strategically, and with a clear growth plan. So the numbers usually don't lie about this. When a nonprofit has clear revenue diversification plans, they're able to grow 2 times faster than those that are relying on single funding sources. So you have to look at your plan and structure to ensure that your nonprofit has the tools necessary for it to actually grow past the level it is right now. So, do you have a clear revenue diversification plan to help you grow to the level that you need to grow, right? Because then a lot of nonprofits that are stuck in limbo, they're actually depending on a single or two funding sources, which is not good, right? So, you need to invest in marketing and visibility because that also helps you raise 3 times more funding. That's another stat that doesn't lie. And nonprofits that have a board that actively fundraises, they're able to bring in 50% more revenue than those that don't. So it is in your best interest to actually engage your board members and get them involved in the fundraising aspect of your organization because your organization, if you are trying to grow, then again, all the actions within it need to be more intentional. So, if you're wondering why my nonprofit isn't growing, you need to start asking yourself some specific questions like, are you consistently bringing in funding, right? Or are you just hoping money will come? Because that's the other thing. Because then to me, that's exactly what happens when you're applying for grants. You're applying for the grants and just hoping money will come. And that's one thing that I need you to leave behind well, March is almost over already. Leave behind in March 2025 or the beginning of 2025 and keep moving, right? And are you showing up? Hey, thank you, Ricky. Are you showing up online and in your community, or are you hiding in the background? What I mean by that is you're doing good work, right? But the community see the work that you're doing. Do they understand the work that you're doing when you show up? Are you going to outreach events? Are you engaging with your community members? Or, like I said, hiding in the background, right? Because you need to be able to be front and center with a lot of your community members to ensure that they understand the work that you're doing and you can build that recognition and trust, right? And the next question I want you to ask yourself, are you positioning yourselves as leaders, or are you waiting for someone else to validate your nonprofit and the work that you do? Because even in your personal life, if you're waiting for someone to validate you as an adult, something's wrong. Okay. So you need to be able to position yourselves as leaders, believe that you are leaders in the industry, and take action accordingly. Because if you want your nonprofit to actually blow up and do good things, you need to have a plan, a presence, and and a positioning strategy so you can actually move forward accordingly. Okay. Now, one thing that you want to avoid doing is chasing money instead of building scalable funding plans, because what that does is it takes your attention away from what you're supposed to be doing, right? Because remember, I talk about that cycle. You stay stuck in a cycle of reactive fundraising where you're fundraising because of a specific thing, right? You're fundraising because you need to hire XYZ, right? That's the only reason you're fundraising. That's a reactive that's an example of reactive fundraising. You don't plan ahead, you don't have clear revenue models. All of these things can be detrimental to your nonprofit and the structure of the nonprofit. So don't just chase dollars as you go, right? A grant here, an emergency fundraising there, last minute sponsorship request. No, that's what's going to cause you to stay small. You as if you're trying to be a growing nonprofit, you need to think about it differently. You need to build a funding pipeline that ensures money is coming in consistently, right? I know there's going to be a series that's going to come out how to generate earn revenue in your nonprofit. Definitely think about watching these videos so you can learn a little bit more of how to diversify your revenue streams. And the other thing that a growing nonprofit should be doing, especially yours, right? You should not rely on one revenue stream. So you need to have grants, you need to have sponsorships, you need to have recurring donations, you need to have earned income or earned revenue. So these are things that you need to make sure that your nonprofit has to make sure that you are growing and scaling in a healthy way, right? And you need to set annual revenue goals and work towards them with a strategy, not just random fundraising. So, like, let's say you just decide, oh, I love crab. I'm gonna do a crab feed, right? That's just random. You need to think about, like, okay, this is your goal. These are the different activities that we can do because this fundraiser is going to help us bring in 10K or 25K, whatever it is. If we're earning revenue, if we tap into earn income, our goal is to sell 50 tickets or whatnot, or whatever the goal is. You need to plan it out. You need to have a clear strategy, right? Now, an example I have for you is like your nonprofit, you may be having a hard time because 90% of your funding comes from one foundation grant, right? When that grant isn't renewed, what happens is you're losing nearly everything, right? So instead of scrambling, you need to build a revenue model. An example is like a four-part revenue model, right? So think about having a monthly giving program, which is able to generate about 5K per month, right? That's a great amount of revenue coming in, very consistent and very predictable, right? A paid training program that can generate over 40K per year, where you're marketing effectively, you have a price tag attached to it, and you're just expecting people, well, you're just like asking people to pay for this training, or you're seeking contracts for this training. These are things that you need to think about. The other part to this revenue model is corporate sponsorships that can secure, like, let's say, for example, it'll secure 100K in commitments. And the next is government contracts that covers core operations. So these are different things. That This is a four-part revenue model, an example that I'm providing that you can use to help your nonprofit really not rely on not like one foundation grant. So what can happen when you do that is you can actually triple your funding, and you don't have to worry about if that grant does not come through. So a grant can be a bonus. A grant can be part of your strategy, but should not be the make or break aspect of your funding model, your revenue model. Okay. So the next thing I want you to avoid is focusing on the programs and not focusing on positioning your nonprofits, right? Like a lot of nonprofits I see, they're too focused on the work, they're entrenched in the work, and they're not focused enough on visibility and positioning. And that can help you bring in funding. Like they're not doing outreach work, nobody knows who they are. They're really focusing on the work they're doing. Like we love helping XYZ group of people, those are the people we're going to help. That is fine, but you also have to think about it in a very strategic and intentional way where you're also thinking about the visibility and positioning of the organization where you're able to secure funding that way, right? You can do amazing things, but if nobody sees it, trust it, or talks about it didn't exist, right? You're going to keep having a hard time with funding. And I don't know if you've, like, I know this was a thing. If there's no picture, it didn't happen. Same thing. If you're not visible and people don't know what you're doing, they don't see what you're doing, it's like it didn't happen, right? And you're going to have a hard time getting funding. So you need to make sure that people see you, trust you, and talk about you. And I'm talking about your nonprofit here, okay? Nonprofits that are actually visible and well branded can actually raise more money than those that actively market them that don't actively market themselves. So imagine your nonprofit is doing good work, right? And you're out there in the community, everybody, you're tooting your horn, you're sharing the good news, sharing stories, letting people know about the work that you're doing, right? You're visible. You have a great brand. You built a brand. Now, when people see your name, they're more likely to give to you. Okay. So what you can be doing differently, you can show up consistently online. If you don't have the ability or the capacity, you need to start showing up consistently online and in your communities. So online, what that looks like is posting consistently. So maybe you can post a video of someone sharing a story or somebody in your staff sharing a story, maybe one of the leaders sharing why you guys started and why you do the work that you do. And you need to start positioning yourselves as thought leaders in your space. Now, if the organization is the mission is to help unhoused individuals, start talking about like different policies that affect the population you're serving, different ways to advocate, start being a thought leader about the issue that you're defending or the people that you're helping, because that's going to help you go further than just staying silent about certain issues, right? And I need you to start using storytelling to engage funders, donors, and supporters. So storytelling, you need to be able to tell stories to your audience about the work that you're doing and how it's helping people in your community. So don't just say, oh, our program helps 50 kids, right? No. So you can actually tell folks our program has been able to impact people like John and help them learn more about how to invest their money as youth, as a young adult, and they're able to grow their portfolio and become financially independent. And this is what we did, blah, blah, blah. So share a story of where John started and where he is. Share the impact of the work that you did. I'm just talking about financial literacy for some reason. That's the first thing that came to my mind, right? Another example, it can be a youth mentoring nonprofit, and it's struggling to get funding until they start positioning themselves. I want you to realize positioning is very important. So start positioning your nonprofit organization in a way that people see you as experts in the field that you're in. So if you are mentoring youth about certain topics, position yourselves as experts in those fields. So the youth mentoring, position yourself as experts in teen mental health, whatever it is, because you need to get featured in local news as the leading organization addressing youth wellness, right? You need to partner with local schools to host community discussions. These are things that are very important that too many nonprofits are not doing. Like, you need to position yourself and be more visible in the community. You need to build a strong social media presence and start sharing stories of impact. If you do not know how to do that, just ask. Okay, just reach out and ask. Okay, because then I'm sure I have resources that I can direct you to, and definitely we have a way to help you with that. So you need to position yourself in a way that matters, right? Because then what can happen with when a nonprofit positions itself, you can start seeing funding increase, not only from donors, from sponsors, and grants, because they saw you as a leader in the space. They see you as a important pillar in the community in this space. I know a few months ago I shared the term trusted messenger. Like, I don't know if y'all were asleep when I shared the term trusted messenger. This term is going to be very important in the next few years. A lot of government entities are relying on community-based organizations, nonprofits to do work because some of them are trusted messengers in the community. The only reason that they are trusted messenger is because they've been building their visibility and positioning and have the trust of the community members, not just your neighbors. Gregory, I think that's you. Hi, Greg. So not just your neighbors or people you're familiar with, but you need to start engaging with the community as a whole so they can start seeing you as trusted messengers, because there are going to be contracts out there for trusted messengers that are doing work. I've seen a few. I've applied for a few grants that are looking for trusted messengers. I've gotten a few. They're out there. The money's out there. So if you tell me there's no money, I'm here to look at you sideways, because the money is out there. You just need to start working on your visibility and positioning. Okay. Now, the next thing I want you to stop doing, stop refusing to invest in your growth, because, like, oh, we can't do this until we have the money. Okay, when are you gonna have it? Because then you keep thinking about the one part you don't have instead of thinking, how am I going to get it so we can actually grow? Because if you really wanted it, you would get it. Just like someone like, I kid you not, like my mom, like, not my mom. I won't use my mom as an example. She's going to come back for me. So I have friends, right? They'll tell me, "Oh no, we don't have it to invest in that," but they'll come back with a Birkin bag or whatever because they had the money for that because that's what they wanted. So you have to think about the priorities of your organization. If you're looking for your organization to grow, you need to come to terms about which part of it that what do you need to invest in to support that growth. Because if you're only putting money into programs and not into marketing and systems or staff, the nonprofit stays small. Okay, you need to grow, like, you need to invest in your own growth to actually see growth. Because let's say the capacity is the issue for the nonprofit to have a bigger impact, and you're not working on ways to generate revenue to increase your capacity, then it's a whole cycle. You're burnt out. You have no staff. You have no capacity to do this. You're only serving 5 people in the community because you don't have enough staff to do it. So it's the whole cycle over and over again until you get so tired. You're like, oh my God, I'm gonna give up because then this nonprofit thing is hard. It's not meant to be easy. It's meant to support communities in need, especially if you're a community-based organization. So I want you to start thinking about how to invest in your growth and what's needed in your organization to grow. It may look different for different organizations. Some organizations need they need human capacity needs to increase, so they need more staff, right? Some of them need more knowledge and skills to do the work. So they need training. So you have to look into what is needed in your organization to grow. So maybe you have the staff, but you want to start a program, but nobody has training on on how to do it. Invest in the training, train people you already have. Like you have to think about what's needed for you to invest in for the nonprofit to grow. Okay, because an organization that actually invests in marketing and fundraising staff can generate significantly higher revenues than those that rely only on volunteers. That's just stats, data, facts. And fundraising effectiveness project, that's the source for this because a lot of nonprofits are saying, "Oh, we just have volunteer staff." How are they fundraising for you? Because it's different than a staff that actually is paid and focuses on your growth and your strategy compared to a volunteer, because that person can come and go. If they wake up this morning, they don't want to do the work, they don't have to, they're just a volunteer. Okay. So I want you to really think about what you need to focus on and invest in. Now, what I want you to do differently, I want you to think about hiring a fundraising professional instead of expecting volunteers to do it all. The other thing I want you to do differently, I want you to use marketing to attract donors and funders on a consistent basis. Marketing looks like just making sure you post consistently on social media, making sure you're visible in the community. You have to use marketing strategies to start attracting donors and funders, right? And the third thing I want you to start doing, I want you to start investing in systems and automations for your nonprofit so you can scale your operations. Now, systems and automation may look different depending on the level that you're at. Now, some systems may include making sure you have some type of procedure or process when you're onboarding folks. Hey, Dorinda, I was talking about you earlier about strategy. So, like, you need to make sure that you have some systems in place to scale your operations. Automations can look like making sure you're using some type of CRM system or workflow to communicate on a regular basis with donors and funders, right? And other systems I can think of. Like if you're always onboarding people or volunteers, create a training for them. Make sure it's on an LMS or something that they can access because that saves you time on having to explain the same thing over and over again. Yes, that in-person training is important, but what can you record and automate for your organization to save you time? Because then if you have to tell volunteers over and over again, welcome to the team, right? This is what we do. This is what we do. This is what we do. It's a waste of time. If it's something that you repeat over and over again, put it on a recording, a video, record it, let it rip. Like you can have them watch it for 30 minutes and come back to you so you can do a custom presentation and then ask you a Q&A session, right? So you need to start thinking about those things. Now, an example I have for you on how to do this differently. Like, let's say you're a community arts nonprofit, you're having a hard time with funding because you have no marketing strategy, right? You can decide to hire a part-time marketing coordinator. And what can happen when you hire a marketing coordinator, they can focus on doubling your donor base. They can secure sponsorships for you or they can increase your social media engagement, which can also lead to having new funders. So these are different things that your nonprofit organization can do. Okay. Now, one thing I want you to realize is that you have to become objective and very like honest with yourself when it comes down to admitting why your nonprofit is not growing, why you're in the position that you are. Okay. Because oftentimes you're not executing strategically. Okay, if you want your organization to go to the next level, you need to start building a funding plan instead of just chasing dollars. Okay, you need to position yourselves as industry leaders. You need to invest in the growth of your nonprofit, not just the programs, because the money is not only supposed to fund the programs, you're supposed to be able to fund the growth of your organization as well. Because if you are able to grow, your programs can have more impact, right? So I want you to think about that. And I know the first thing I said at the beginning, if that's something you want to work on and sit down and come up with a game plan, a revenue model for your organization, definitely book a strategy session because, as I said at the beginning, success is not random, it's strategic. And it starts with you as the leader of your organization. So, with that said, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments, but I shall go now. I've been going live every day except for one day in March. I'm out, y'all. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Looking forward to hearing from you and have an amazing rest of your day. Bye.